Happy Wednesday! It's the BumbleKast, and I'm your host, Ian Flynn, the Bumble King. Joining me as always is my Bumble co-host, Kyle, JCRB Krause.
Hello. I've returned from whence I came. I don't know. Where did I go? Where did we come from, Ian?
Where did you come from? Where did you go? Where did you come from, Cotton Eye Joe?
I don't even know who Cotton Eye Joe is, but I don't know. He's here now. So we're here, and we have many, many questions. And we do these. And they need many, many answers.
Well, that's what we will give. These come from our patrons over at patreon.com/BumbleKast, Ko-fi.com/BumbleKast, and our YouTube members. We have a whole slew of new tiers and restructuring and such. So head over to BumbleKast.com to see what that's all about.
All right, we're picking up where we left off in the K's. So we're starting off with King Toasty. It feels like all the Freedom Fighter members have a niche in their character or a personality that sets them apart from the modern Sonic cast, except Rotor. Now that Tails is the resident inventor/mechanic, what would you like to see done with Rotor to help set him apart? Obviously, SEGA has the final say, but I'm curious to hear your take on how you'd handle it.
That is a good question, and something we ran into in the post-reboot when we were rethinking things.
Mm-hmm.
There, we tried to reinvent Rotor a little bit so that if Tails was all about gadgetry and smaller stuff and transports, Rotor was all about offensive tech. I don't know how well that translated, and we didn't get a ton of opportunity to show it off, but I mean, part of it is that in terms of SAT-AM, Rotor was Tails. He was Sonic's best friend, and he was an inventor. The difference being that Rotor was kind of soft-spoken and not adventurous, whereas Tails is, in a lot of ways, almost a Sonic 2.0 these days. He's just smarter and can fly. So it might still work with the inventor angle if the Freedom Fighters are kind of a unit. Like, we're never going to go back to the old SAT-AM days where it's Sonic is part of this superhero team working out of this secret clubhouse fighting the evil city. That's been done. That's not what modern Sonic is about anymore. But the Freedom Fighters I view as kind of part and parcel. They're all together. And within their unit, they play off each other very well, and they each bring something to the table. So Rotor could still be the mechanic of the Freedom Fighters. And, that might be something that he and Tails bond over. They geek out over various tech stuff. It would give Tails somebody to bounce off of that isn't just Sonic again. Maybe give them something to do together that isn't all about Sonic.
Yeah.
Also, I wanted to push him more towards aquatic stuff, because you don't have a lot of underwater stuff. Like, Knuckles can kind of swim, Tails can kind of swim, and Sonic is mostly useless underwater, but everybody generally is just kind of like platforming. Rotor, I'd like to see him excel underwater. Let him be the underwater character. He's the one that you want to use in, like, Labyrinth Zone or whatever.
Mm-hmm. I mean, that would make sense considering he's a walrus.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Just a hunch. Here's a question from Miles the Prower. Hey Ian, you've made it clear that Scourge doesn't care about anyone. I was wondering if Fiona was included in that, as she seems to be the one person he has any respect for. Or is he just playing into his lady killer attitude to get what he wants from her?
I think when I say he doesn't care about anyone, I mean it on a deep level. Like, he cares about the Destructics insofar as that gang belongs to him. They're his group, but he's not going to stick his neck out to save any of them necessarily. Fiona, he likes. They are on a similar wavelength. They have fun together. He likes her style. But when it comes down to it, it's going to be him over her any day of the week.
That makes sense. He only likes people to a certain degree, to a certain point, but he likes himself the most.
Yeah.
Yes.
I don't feel like he is consciously misleading her because he doesn't need to. She's doing a lot of that work for him.
Right.
And they get along, but I think it's just they happen to be getting along right now, and when that falls apart, it's going to be ugly.
Yeah. All right, here's a question from Mobius. How would you feel about a Sonic anime by a modern Toei in the style of Dragon Ball Super, Broly, and the Wano arc of One Piece, with its versatile animation and grungy line art?
Maybe. I mean, Dragon Ball Super Broly was freaking gorgeous. I personally lean towards Studio Bones myself because I adore their pacing and how they render action. But what Toei's put out in those samples is still pretty good. I mean, a modern Sonic anime with a focus on visceral, high energy action scenes would be just.
Here's a question from Knights Yubel. Have you guys heard of the every copy of Mario 64 is personalized creepypasta / theory? I think it's really cool to imagine a game changing itself based on how good you are and your own mental state. So assuming this theory is real, how would each of your guys' games change for you? Would they get easier? Harder?
Yeah, I'm living proof that's fake because I'm abysmal at Mario. And if it got any easier, it would just start giving me stars.
Well, I mean,
would start healing by walking.
Eventually the games do just give you things. at later, more recent games.
Yeah, but if we're talking about a game that is actively trying to meet you part way, no.
Mm-hmm.
No. If that were true, by Rainbow Ride, there would stop being sky, okay? It would just be paved over. There would be 7 stars sitting in a row, and you just walk up to them because, oh, God, the migraines I got trying to get that freaking game. I could barely stomp the post holding the Chomp Chomp in Bob-omb Battlefield, okay? That's how just staggeringly bad I was at Mario 64. So,
jeez, I don't really know how it would adjust to me. I feel like I'm pretty good at the game, honestly. If I be honest with myself, I feel like I'm pretty good at it, but I don't know in what ways it would change. It would probably get harder, and then I would be sad because the game would be too hard. I don't know. It's a weird thing to imagine. I don't know. Creepypastas are weird, man. But yeah, I feel like I'm pretty decent at it. I mean, I streamed it on BumbleKast Gaming, so if you're curious about how I play Mario 64, go check that out. I'm nowhere near on a speedrunner level. That's for dang sure. I don't really do any of the speedrun techniques, but I played through the game multiple times. I've beaten it many times. I've gotten 120 stars several times. It's a game that I can just go back to and kind of enjoy, and I feel pretty good about playing through it. It's not like it's not an especially difficult game for me, so I don't know how it would change for me. I feel like I'm just like an average to above average player of Mario 64, really. So what would it change? In what way would it change? Who knows? Here's a question from Nokonori. You mentioned that you love Sam and Max Freelance Police. How do you think the BumbleKast would fare if the two suddenly found their way onto the island, bugging around for clues to a case?
Oh, Lord.
It would be like when Vector showed up, kind of.
Yeah.
But probably even more cartoony.
You need a Gatorade after all that dry wit.
Yeah. There would definitely be a lot more destruction. That's for sure.
Like, Sonic would have to continually be stepping in to stop them from offing Eggman. Like, we don't do that here. And yeah. Max just can't understand why. It's the bad guy. It's what you do. And no, excuse me, Max would say that. And Sam's like, now, chum. They actually have to fill a 3rd season. We come out whenever we want to.
Yeah. Something like that. Here's a question from Nondal. Did Zavok set Starline up, or did he really think he had a chance?
No. He knew he was putting oil on the fire.
I like it.
I'm not saying that Zavok knew exactly how it was going to play out, but he did give Starline that push, hoping that he would take things too far, because he's seen what Eggman can do. And if Starline won, okay, Eggman's dead. That fits Zavok's plans nicely just as much.
Handy. I like it. Pedanticat has a question. Time for yet another Worlds Collide question, but with a twist. So Ian and Kyle, if you're among Sonic's friends who were kidnapped and roboticized, with you now being Ian Man and Kyle Man, what weapon would Mega Man obtain from you after reverting you back to normal?
Escape clause. Somebody points out a problem with Mega Man. He throws out a semi-entertaining, somewhat witty answer and vanishes.
Poof. I don't know what they would get from me. I don't know.
Something sound related.
I guess.
You get the NGI remixer. You can combine 2 or more powers that you already have in the arsenal into something compatible and just throw it out there.
Not bad. I like it. I'll take it. I like it. Good ideas. Here's one from Quaggle Gaggle. I feel like we should finally address the elephant in the room. Again, another one? How many elephants are there? What are your opinions or experiences with Balan Wonderworld, and do you think Yuji Naka can or should make a comeback?
I'm going to leave that elephant alone, because this is the internet, and they're going to take whatever I say and run wild with it. I didn't play Balan myself.
No, me neither.
The anti-hype was thick and viscous and dissuaded me from even attempting. So I can't really form an opinion on a game that I haven't played, but I believe everyone kind of spoke for it.
I will say that it is another one of those games that has been a missed opportunity and an unfortunate victim of decisions, both by the creators of the game and beyond the creators' control. So it's a shame that the game isn't more along the lines of what people wanted it to be. As far as my opinions on Yuji Naka, he's a talented programmer. Here's a question from Ryoko Shion. Does the classic world / Sonic Mania universe no longer exist? Or the only difference between the two timelines is what happened to Sonic Mania and its DLC? I mean, all the classic games that are considered canon are the canon in both universes except for Mania?
Again, I can't really get into it right now, so I'm just going to have to say #knowing smile.
We got a question here from Sam Cybercat. We've said in the past that movie concepts are off the table for IDW Sonic, but do you think it's still worth fans writing in to say if they want them? Specifically fans of Agent Stone. I really enjoyed the prequel tie-in comic, and it'd be cool to see more, even if it's a spin-off from the main book.
Yeah, if you want to see something, ask for it. Don't let me dissuade you. If you want it, say so. Whether that turns into like an Agent Stone movie versus book, or we get enough asks that we get an IDW modern style Stone, I don't know. It might be that he's a Paramount owned property. It could be that he falls under the Sonic license. I have no idea. Like, navigating just game licensing ownership is a bit above my mental ability, and you factor in Hollywood? No. No, I ain't gonna pretend.
Yeah, no idea. It's not your job to worry about that, though. Your job is to write the funny animal talking to each other and doing things. That's what you need.
I mean, it doesn't hurt to ask. I mean, at absolute worst, nothing happens.
Right.
And at best, you get what you want. So go for it. It's a no-lose situation.
Indeed. All right, we got a question here from Sammy S. I was wondering how much of Kirby's secret lore you know of. If you don't know what I mean, through pause screen text and other cues sprinkled both in and out of games, behind the happy visuals lies story building and lore of ancients, an interconnected world, and a deeper look into the characters and how they connect to one another. What I want to ask is, if you know a decent amount of Kirby games and their stories, do you have a favorite story out of any of them? Also, do you have a favorite Kirby villain? Maybe they appeal to you design-wise, or maybe even their final boss music. My personal favorites are Queen Sectonia's Tragic Tale in Kirby Triple Deluxe, and the reveal of Void in Kirby Star Allies, and how he's connected to Kirby himself. Though other villains are really cool for their own reasons as well, like Megalore, Marx, Drossia, and Stardream, to name a few.
I have a passing understanding of the Kirby Deep lore.
Same.
I haven't researched it myself, but dabbled here and there. I've got enough lore to keep up professionally. I can't keep up with lore for funsies. But my personal favorite story is the Dark Matter trilogy, Dreamland 3, Dreamland 2, Dreamland 3, and 64. The escalation of here is this dark presence that corrupted Day to here's the dark presence that came to take over Popstar to you go to the planet of darkness itself and fight the core of dark matter. Just, it's so freaking cool.
Mm-hmm.
Never mind that the O2 fight is one of the best music tracks in humanity's history. Don't at me. And it's so hard to replicate for some reason.
Yeah.
Like that breakdown of the strings. Nobody can seem to do that quite right. And it drives me crazy. Because it's so good.
Mm-hmm.
Make more good, please. Give for ear holes. Also along that line, and Drossia's first form music. Just, oh my God. Like, I almost regret her having a second form because that first one is just the crazy organ playing and it's got that gothic operatic feel to it. And just, I
hate when the villain's first form is the one with the good music.
I know, right? That and she's just a neat design, whereas Drossia's soul is kind of like, here's the spoopy orb again.
Yeah. I really don't know a heck of a lot of deep Kirby lore. I'm aware that it exists, and I know a little bit of it, and I've definitely seen some of the eldritch horrors that Kirby has had to face. 02 is fantastic, by the way. Also, Marks is great. But personally, my personal favorite game is Kirby's Adventure for the NES. I think it's a bit of a lighter game than most, so it doesn't get into that weird deep stuff about the lore, but it's a fun game. I like it.
No, but it does, establish the powers first and foremost.
Right.
And does set up the trend of you think Day-to-Day is the big bad, but there's actually a bigger bad to be had.
Right. Yeah. Yep. Like that. And there's also like the influence on the sort of the intergalactic monsters that are prevalent in the Smash Brothers series. So like with Ultimate and a few others here and there. So the influence is wide for Kirby lore, surprisingly. Here's a question from Saving Throws. I've always been curious about the machine aspect of Sonic's world, especially the idea of there being organic mechanisms that arguably take up the flora and fauna of some zones. Ian, you stated, maybe jokingly, that you think the springs placed around zones are a natural occurrence. In Metallic Madness Zone, on Little Planet specifically, are we to believe that the entire zone may have consisted of natural machine-like organisms, like the springs on wheels and the knife umbrella death traps? Is Metallic Madness an example of what natural constructs can exist in the universe? We've already seen Eggman use Metallic Madness for resources, more recently in Mania when he builds his giant mech, the Titanic Monarch, right next to the zone prior. I just find it all so freaking fascinating, man. Love to hear your guys' thoughts.
I said that in jest. I think it's one of those things that you don't think too hard about. It's a game mechanic in the world. And this is coming from someone who has tried to figure all of this crazy nonsense out and make it fit. And one of the lessons I've learned is just kind of embrace the nonsense that is Sonic. Are there springs just around? Yes. Does it make a lot of sense? It's in Sonic's world. So yes. You have giant highway bypasses that are loop-de-loops that make no damn sense. But that's just how Sonic's world is.
Wow. Makes sense. It makes as much sense as anything else.
I mean, you might say that's the lazy and easy way out, but I prefer to think of it as the path of least resistance.
Indeed. Here's a question from Scourge Time. All right, this time Scourge meets a certain cat who's searching for the Soul Emerald. How would a Scourge Rush story go? Any cool ideas for an alternate Blaze design?
Here's the thing. Would there be an anti-Blaze? Because anti-Mobius is an alternate reality of Prime. Ergo, Blaze's dimension would be an offshoot of Prime, albeit a very, very, very different one. So, unless the Antiverse is kind of like a sub-hub to the multiverse and has its own version of the soul dimension. Oh boy, this gets real messy real fast. I mean, the obvious answer is just to make her, ice themed and call her Frost the cat. And then she becomes freezing frost when she gets all of the soul barrel. Soul. Like a barrel full of fish. I mean, Sonic Rush's story was, at least on Sonic's side, pretty darn simple. Is that the Eggmen were gathering up all the various gemstones to merge dimensions and take over. And so Scourge getting involved would just be, oh, you guys are already putting together the ultimate power. Let me just take that off your hands and proceed to play through Sonic stages, kicking all sorts of butt for self-gain.
Mm-hmm.
And while he wouldn't necessarily have anything against Blaze taking out the Eggmen, have at it, lady, they're all yours. She would be adamant. I'm talking about Vanilla Blaze. She would be adamant about getting the Soul Emeralds back and putting them where they should be. And he doesn't want to do that. He wants all the gems for himself. And therefore you get the excuse to have that boss fight. And then in the finale, why would he help Blaze? Short of Blaze has the... no, that doesn't really work. I don't know how to wrap it up, but I can see it playing out fairly similarly throughout. It's just, Scourge is driven by personal gain versus Sonic's altruism.
Yeah. Also, Vanilla is not Blaze, Ian. You said
Did
Vanilla.
I say
Blaze.
Vanilla?
You said Vanilla Blaze.
Oh, for pity's sake. No.
I know what you meant. I'm just being pedantic. But that's not my job. That's someone else's job. Except it is. It is my job to be pedantic. Because it's funny. You know what else is funny? Scruffy Man. 4 years ago on Twitter, you discussed the possibility of writing for the Sonic games, and Mike Pollock replied with something that may have been a joke, but I see it as a challenge. I think it's time to pay up, good sir, don't you?
Yeah, see, I retweeted this because I'd forgotten entirely. And I don't know if he's kidding or not, but Mike said that he'd buy a license for the karaoke version of the song that he referenced and write up lyrics for it. So I said it on Twitter. I'll say it here. If he does all that, I kind of have to do this parody song of his creation. So, I don't know. Keep your eye on the BumbleKast YouTube. There might be a standalone song at some point.
He also reacted to things where I had to be involved in this song in some fashion as well, and also of coming onto the BumbleKast. So who knows? Maybe we'll have Mike Pollock on the show soon. Maybe. I think that would be cool.
I would love to invite him on. It's just I don't want to waste his time, and you can't really interview the man. He's already got a robust FAQ on his website.
Yes, as do you, but we still do a Q&A podcast and have been doing it for 7 months.
Yes, but
7 years, not months.
I'm just me. This is Mike the Pollock.
Yeah.
Come now. There are different levels of celebrity status here.
I suppose. Yeah, whatever. I'm sure he's just a regular guy. He's probably pretty cool.
Oh, yeah, he's super cool. I've met him a few times. Mike Pollock is just a great guy. Very patient with the fandom. And
I mean,
just a delightful soul.
He needs to be. I mean, as does anybody who's related to Sonic. But, yes. I would love to have Mike on the show. I don't know what we talk about, but we could have some fun. We're just sing the whole time. Maybe you could do, I don't know. We'll figure something out. That's why we're going to take this break. We're going to go figure something out when, and then we'll come back and we won't tell you what we figured out. But maybe you'll find out someday. So, see you soon with more BumbleKast. And we're back. And we got a question here to start us off again from Scurfy Pirate Hog. After the events of issue 50, what if, instead of perishing, something else happened to Starline? What if he got banished? Banished to the Sonic Boom universe, because now the only villains willing to work with him are the Lightning Bolt Society. How would Starline adjust to his new life in the Boom dimension? Would he even try to become buddies with Boom Eggman?
See, I think at that point, he'd just want the sweet release of death because you just prescribed him to hell.
I think we've kind of done this before, but yes, that is effectively.
Well, we've touched upon Starline and Boom Eggman and how he just wouldn't tolerate the buffoonery and would try to take over. But the wrinkle here is the Thunderbolt Society.
That's true. Yeah, he would be. They're
which
utter
are
incompetence.
Down. Yeah. I mean, they've got the drive, which might enamor them at first, but after that, it would just be worse because why are you a tree? We can see your face. You don't even look like a tree. Get out of the tree. So, he'd go cuckoo bananas.
Maybe he could make them competent, or maybe that's impossible. I don't know.
I imagine he could get them to coordinate briefly, but you can only do so much with broken parts.
Yeah, I guess it would be like herding cats. It's not easy. Not easy to do.
I imagine
not worth doing.
He would finally reach his breaking point, and because he has the initiative and the wherewithal to act on it, he would take over. He would just do it again. He'd boot Eggman out of his base. He'd actually send the badniks in coordinated strikes. The heroes and villains would have to come together because, oh, wait, we actually have to do something to survive. They would have to stage an actual siege of the egg base. Starline would get knocked out a window into that active volcano and would wake up and, where is he now? You there! You look like you want a promotion!
Yes. Oh no, things just went from bad to worse.
We're slipping back into Dr. Starline's internal hell isekai.
Yeah, I know. It's just the thing. Yeah.
But it's such a good premise.
It is. It well and truly is. It's unfortunate you will never be able to do it, and officially at least.
Nah.
But, oh well, it's fun to think about. Let's get into our next question here from Sequoia. Do you think the Sonic series or any of the previous Western media would be any different if Eggman had never been localized as Robotnik for Western audiences back in the 90s and instead had been portrayed as classic game Eggman?
That is honestly kind of hard to conceptualize.
It kind of is. You might be able to get away with the same everything when you were talking Adventures of, but
even then,
yeah,
the Adventures of Robotnik, as cornball as he was still, I feel like, more overtly antagonistic.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like classic Eggman has a playfulness to him that is absent from the Western mentality and, worlds apart from Sad AM Robotnik. Kind of on the flip side, not really answering Sequoia's question, but it kind of makes me wonder if you've seen some of the early concept arts for Sad AM.
Yeah.
And the Robotnik, who is just like this green Don Bluth looking wizard. It's like, what if there had been zero oversight or quality control? What would Western Sonic look like today? Because there's no reconciling those two.
No.
At all.
No.
But I don't know, because it's a much bigger question than just Eggman, because, Western market mentalities and what was popular to kids in the 90s in North America versus in Japan and how that trend evolved. I don't know how it would go. I mean, it's like all of the villains, all the video game properties were kind of treated in a similar fashion. Like, I don't know if you could draw a full one-to-one with 90s Super Mario Brothers show Koopa with today's Bowser.
No, not really. They're maybe they're closer though than Robotnik versus
I could
Eggman.
see, but compare Mario Brothers Super Show Ganon to
Ganon. That's right. That's a good point. Yeah, not even close. Those two are very different.
It all comes down to what was acceptable and what was sought after in that time period.
Yeah.
And I personally am not learned enough to have like an actual informed opinion on it. Like, I grew up in that era. I have not researched it myself. So I feel like this is actually a very interesting question, like something that you could really dig your claws into and make an in-depth study of marketing trends and media globally in the 90s and how it moved on to today. I'm not qualified to answer that.
Yeah, that's actually would be like a kind of a fascinating sort of documentary or interview series or something, talking to the people who made those and the adaptation thought process that went on in there. Because yeah, that's kind of interesting. So,
like, if somebody wants to write a book, there's your prompt. Go for it.
Yeah, that would be a great book too. I think that would be...
Ian, why don't you write the book?
You're busy writing other books. Huh. Well, while we ponder that, let's get into this question here from Sky. Ian, what are your thoughts on the serious types of metafiction stories? I'm referencing stories such as the ones about that weird literature club, that one tale of going under, and that one about a love story. The question is not exactly about the actual content of those stories, though feel free to talk about them, but of more a question on how you feel about the serious fourth wall breaking in those stories on the meta level. Is the BumbleKast metafiction?
No. BumbleKast is pure distilled truth with all its warts and oily odors and
depending on who you ask. But if you ask us, we try to generally be as factual and honest as possible. But
frankly, I don't have the energy to be meta for a full hour. I don't have the wherewithal for that.
No,
it's an interesting approach. It's not something that I feel like I would necessarily do, because I feel like you have to do it right to tell a truly engaging narrative utilizing that style. I don't think I'm smart enough to do that, to be perfectly honest.
There's a certain level of talent required and of just ability, how to recognize, first of all, what you're kind of doing a satire of in a way, and also how to change that. Yeah, like you have to be good at telling the story, which is already hard enough to do. Yeah.
And then you have to be savvy enough of the tropes and other biases that come with it to weave it into the story in a way that bolsters it rather than frames it or brings it down. Because it's very easy to, give winks to the camera and make jokes at your own expense. There's a lot of that kind of stuff in like the MCU where it's like, oh, this comic book name's kind of dorky, let's laugh at it, which is about the lowest possible bar for meta humor. Sometimes it works, and I think very early on it was what audiences needed to jump in, not the folks who already enjoy it, but I mean broader audiences. But now we're well established, you can stop doing that. But stuff like Undertale, or one of my personal favorites, which I really need to go back and reread, Slaughterhouse 5 by Kurt Vonnegut. Stuff like that, where you can take that external voice and use it as a way to accentuate the story that you're already telling within its own context, is masterfully crafted. It's just really hard to wrap your head around.
Yeah. Like that certain literature club.
I don't know what that's referencing.
Doki Doki Literature Club. You'd hate it.
Yeah,
you'd hate it.
Yeah.
Except maybe maybe the version that doesn't have all the horror elements, which is pretty well done and shows that they can write just a straightforward visual novel, but also they know enough to be able to really twist that on its head and go super meta with it. And I won't spoil it because I mean, most of you guys already know, but if you don't, then yeah, there's things happen in that story. So, but they could also just make it a regular, heartwarming, nice visual novel romance story. It's cute. But then they set it up that way, and then they knock it all down. Knock it all down. Here's a question from Sonic. Hey, how did Eggman, Orbot, and Cubot survive getting sucked into that black hole in colors with little to no damage? And since they survive, would Sonic have survived getting sucked in if he was not rescued by the wisps?
Well, clearly Eggman's tech is just that good that it could withstand being sucked into an event horizon, and then they somehow all managed to get back to Earth.
They're all cartoon people. That's how they survive.
That Sonic doesn't take fall damage, and he can breathe in space. So yeah, I'm sure a black hole would have only been a minor inconvenience to him.
Pretty much. Plot armor, you know? Convenient. always seems to show up. Here's our next question. It's from Sonic PAJ. Could Dr. Eggman have beaten back the Black Arms in Shadow the Hedgehog with the tech he had in that game? What if he had access to any of his tech from any time? Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your question. If he were to defend one bit of land, one base, he might be able to hold out. But he's not going to be content to just protecting one base. He would try to take the world back. So I don't think so, no. The Black Arms were a big enough threat that they put Gun and Eggman on the back foot amid everything else. So he would certainly have caused them a lot of damage. I'm not saying that they would have rolled over him, but I think the implication is supposed to be that the Black Arms were a big deal when they were invading.
Yeah, but then at some point, El Gran Gordo would come out and just do a suplex on Black Doom, and then it would all be reversed. Didn't give him long enough. Didn't do it. Here's a question from Speedweed. So, Ian, with Nintendo announcing the acquisition of a whole animation studio, I must now prod you with this juicy question. Say theoretically, or potentially, either or, you're hired onto this studio as a contracted writer, and you can choose any IP Nintendo has under their belt, from Metroid and Kirby to F-Zero and the likes. Out of all those IPs, which one would you choose to write a show for? Doesn't have to just be a single one, of course. And, if I can ask you further, what genre would you want to write it as? I.e. comedy, horror, action-adventure, etc.
As enticing as that is, I probably wouldn't have that kind of sway, since it would be the producer of that show and the director of that show really plotting the course. Any freelance writers brought in would have input, but they would have to follow their vision. What you're asking is, if Nintendo just gave me what I wanted and let me go ham on it.
But this is theoretical.
That'd be so nice. Yeah. It's never going to happen anyway. But, you know, just for funsies, like, top of the list is Star Fox. For the love of God, gimme. You know, and make it a space opera. You know, something that takes itself serious enough when it needs to, something that can have fun when it needs to. Big focus on the, you know, aerial combat. Like, even if you have to go budget with the talkie scenes and have lots of flapping mouths and slow panning backgrounds, just so you can pump every cent into the R-Wing, just blitzing through stuff. Mm-hmm. That said, I may have mentioned this on an earlier show, but I was discussing this elsewhere, and somebody brought forward the idea of doing a Star Fox show in the style of Thunderbirds. Like, do the old puppets, like from the original Star Fox marketing stuff.
Right, yeah.
In the stuff, and that sold me. Like, that's not animation, really, but I don't know, man. I would pay good money. I would buy a streaming service just to watch that. That could be fun. Mm-hmm. Other ideas, like, just, I would step back and just give Genndy Tarkovsky Metroid. You know?
Yeah.
Like, seriously, that's the perfect match.
Yeah.
Like, even if I'm not the biggest fan of Primal, regardless, that kind of style applied to Samus and her adventures.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, please.
Yeah.
It's like, oh my god.
I think some F-Zero love is in order.
Yeah,
would be nice.
Yeah, that would have to have the tongue firmly planted in the cheek.
Well, yeah,
and just celebrate the weirdness of it. Like everyone in universe takes themselves seriously, but the whole thing is just a goof.
Well, I think that's kind of what they did with the anime.
See, I never saw it, so I don't know.
The old F-Zero anime was a little bit like that. I don't know. It was okay. It did give us Captain Falcon punching an entire planet, so that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool, but
a kind of episodic slice of life Splatoon might be fun.
Actually, yeah, that might be.
I mean, sure, you could go for something a bigger adventure or like an extended tournament arc, but I feel like part of the appeal of Splatoon is the feeling of being in Inkopolis and this culture that is there. The games around it, the greater lore, is just kind of a distraction, a fun side event, and more it's just kind of like the down-to-earth stuff, the clothing and the neighborhoods and that kind of stuff, I feel like is the more enduring aspect of it.
Yeah.
Maybe that's just me.
And you've got 4 characters already that you can ready-made for slice of life adventures, I think. I think those following Squid Sisters and Off the Hook around would be great fun.
Yeah, maybe. And again, because that world is so built up, you could create characters within it and it would feel natural enough.
Well, yeah, of course. It would be I love that idea, actually. Time to call up Nintendo. You got their number, right?
Oh, yeah, sure. Right in my back pocket. Me and Shiggy go way back.
I knew it. I knew it. Here's a question from Steph Cube. Imagine that Sonic, Tangle, and Knuckles are fighting together against a bunch of robots. The usual. How would the dynamics be between those 3? Could Knuckles put up with those 2 daredevils long enough to coordinate well in battle? What kind of jokes would there be?
I feel like this dynamic would change significantly if you removed any one of them.
It would.
Like if it was just Tangle and Knuckles, he would be impressed that, hey, a fellow scrapper, someone who likes to just get in there and mix it up.
Yeah.
And he'd be enamored with his form and just look how much he powers through robots. And they'd be like comparing styles and techniques while they fight, giving each other tips mid-battle. Because at this point, nothing's going to touch him.
No.
If it's just Sonic and Tangle, it's more lighthearted. They're more focused on the fun. There's goofy combo moves. They're just delighting in the moment.
Yeah, we've seen that, though.
Yeah, and we've seen Sonic and Knuckles. They kick ass, but Sonic's always getting on Knuckles' nerves mid-fight, and he's taking out that aggression on whoever's in front of him. You mix that together, and I feel like Tangle's attention would be divided, which is already an issue.
What attention? She doesn't have any.
She'd want to get in there and mix it up with Knuckles, and he would see what she could do and would want a serious fighting companion, but Sonic is too much of a fun distraction, so he would be doubly frustrated.
Yeah.
And then Sonic would start rubbing on him, and Tangle would get in on the act, and Knuckles would just get doubly angry by it. And it's pretty much any one of those scenarios, but compounded.
Yes. I do love this, though. This has to happen at some point, Ian. We
really do need to get Tangle and Knuckles in a room together.
Yes.
That's just fun.
Yes. We need to get Knuckles off that stupid freaking island. He doesn't need to be there anymore, Sega. It's been like 27 years. You can get him off there. He doesn't need to be there anymore. Oh well. Here's one from Superior Pizza. In a world where you got the chance to write official Mario comics for Nintendo, how would you handle actual Mario lore? Such as Mario and Company not being entirely human, but legendary star children who hold immense power, as explained in Yoshi's Island DS. What kind of story would you tell to expand on or explain this piece of lore?
Well, number one, I would have to have done my research because that's news to me. And here's the thing. What little, very, very little experience I've had with Nintendo, because that's a Yoshi title, that may not be canon to mainline Mario. Or if failing that, it may not be accessible. Had we gotten the Mario gig when we pitched it way back in the day, if I understood things correctly, we would kind of be locked into classic Mario. We wouldn't be able to reference Galaxy or 64 or the 3D stuff because that's a different type of Mario. We wouldn't have been able to touch Donkey Kong because Donkey Kong is a different IP. We might not have even been able to touch Yoshi. Well, maybe Yoshi as the friendly mount, but not Yoshi in terms of like Yoshi's Island and the Kamek and Baby Bowser stuff, because that's a separate IP or something. I could be wrong, and God, it's been years. Maybe that's shifted, but what I glean from Nintendo of Japan and possibly a bit of Nintendo of America is just that things are very compartmentalized and not very built for licensed narrative work. Although with the animation studio being announced, maybe that's changing. So I don't know. It's very hard to answer your question, eventually here. I don't know what I would do because I don't know what Nintendo would allow me to do.
Alrighty. Here's a question from Supernova. In the 2020 annual, there's a little robotic Starline figure, among other things. Did these designs have to go through a similar approval by SEGA as other characters? If so, does that make quote-unquote metal Starline an actual potential character? Or was this just a nod to robotization or the Zombots?
I don't think they had to be approved because it was just little toys, little action figures. They weren't meant to be an ongoing design element. It was just a visual goof.
Just a one-off gag?
Yeah.
Like Sega didn't have to approve the matrix of leadership in the background in one panel, right?
No.
No, that's just an IDW reference. Come on. A good one, too. I liked it. Here's a question from Tempo. Ian, in the multimedia pitch I've been developing, I am trying to take a unique approach with the main character, writing him as a sort of good guy antagonist. That is to say, he's one of the heroes, and he has good morals, but while sometimes skewed, are never compromised. Yet he often has very misguided intentions trying to uphold those morals, and quickly becomes the antagonist of the arcs of the other main characters throughout the story. I figured it was an interesting way to deconstruct the trope often found in most superhero-esque media, where the main good guy positively influences the world around him, like Sonic, by having it to where the main character inadvertently influences the world negatively instead. This, of course, leads to a classic, I'm a monster, or maybe I'm a bad guy moment, so he can complete his arc and learn that he is valued by his loved ones, even when he doesn't get it right. What do you think of storytelling and trope usage / subversion like this? Have you ever tried your hand at something like this? Is it even a good idea in the first place?
It is a tricky scenario that you've set up for yourself, because it's not an anti-hero. It's a truly heroic individual who's just getting it wrong. And I'm assuming you're going for something a little more comedic, but if not, still, to keep in mind, you're going to have to very carefully balance how you portray your protagonist and those around him. Because if he's a truly good person and, truly morally upright and they're just bad at what they do, then you have to ask the question, why do they continue to do poorly? Are they stupid? Do they not realize the damage that they're causing? Are they just unlucky? Are they just bad at what they do? Why do they not examine themselves and strive to do better, since they are a good and moral person? And those around him, are they completely unaware of the good that he's trying to do? Can they not understand what he's attempting to do and meeting him halfway, or are they only looking at the surface level? And I ask these things because you're going to either very quickly make your protagonist unlikable because sure, they're trying, but the number, you can only tolerate someone trying for so long. Eventually they have the onus to fix their mistakes and do better. And if they don't, then there's no sympathy for your main character anymore. They truly are a menace. They are not a moral character anymore. They're causing damage just because they feel like they're right. And I don't think that's what you want. So that's that's a pitfall that you're going to have to avoid. And on the other end, those around him, you don't want to vilify them, because why is he protecting them? Why is he trying to do good if he's just completely unappreciated? So there's a lot of nuance there, and you could do something with it, and more power to you. It's just, those are my immediate concerns given how you pitched it.
Yeah, that seems like it would be difficult to make the character sympathetic. It seems like it would be kind of it could be frustrating for the reader of their having that sort of incompetence like that.
I'm trying to think of another example of a show that's done something like that. And the only thing that can kind of come to mind is One Punch Man. And that's not quite it. Because he's more under the radar rather than failing to perform, because that's the gag. He always wins.
Mm-hmm.
But, oh shoot. What was the name of the guy? There was one particular episode where, the super low level hero who is beloved by the community is trying his best and is completely out of his league. And Saitama shows up and wins the day, but then takes the heel turn just to make the other guy look better.
Mm-hmm.
He purposefully takes the ire of the community for the greater narrative. But that's still not quite what Tempo's pitching here.
Right.
So I don't know. It's an interesting idea. I'm having a little bit of trouble wrapping my head around it myself, but don't let that discourage you. Go for it.
Yeah, give it a shot. All right, here's a question from the shrimp that fried the rice. How should an aspiring writer practice writing?
Right.
By writing.
Like which is incredibly unhelpful.
I know.
It really is that simple. Just write something. Write a poem. Write a song lyric. Write down your grocery list in an interpretive format. Write out a bit of dialogue that has no beginning or end or point. Just do it. If you need a prompt, look at a scene that you enjoy, be it from a book or from a game or from TV or whatever, and rewrite it. Like, how would you turn that into prose or into a script or whatever? How do they do their pacing, and how do they deliver lines, and how can you replicate that? It's kind of like, there is zero problems with tracing or using references in physical art to learn. Mm-hmm. Some people learn better by mimicry, and then once you've learned your basics through that, you can expand and diversify. So same thing here. This is why I am a big proponent of fanfic. You have your themes, you have your characters, you have your settings, you have a lot of the building blocks already laid out for you. And so you can take those and learn how to assemble a story and individual scenes and character interactions, because you have the training wheels on for you, basically. You don't have to figure out these characters. You don't have to figure out the relationships. You just have to figure out how to convey that. Mm-hmm. And once you have, then you can step back and go, okay, this worked because of X, Y, and Z. How do I do that on my own? If this character works like this, well, how can I do something similar to that? Or I find this aspect boring. What if I changed it to this? How does that change the dynamic? And that just comes from practice and repetition. Don't think about how you're going to publish this. Don't think about who you're going to show it to. Don't think about, any of the metrics or the marketability or you're just writing for you. This is practice. And if you really, really need to break your mindset of, I need to make this right the first time, write it down on an actual piece of paper. And when you finished, tear that page out, crumple it up, and toss it. Destroy it. This is not something for you to hold on to. This is not something to revisit. This is just you practicing. This is not a work of grand literature. This is just an exercise. I mean, you don't save the sweat from your aerobics, do you? I really hope you don't.
Gross.
Don't hold on to don't hold on to this stuff. You're just practicing and just do.
Yeah, I have a problem with that myself. But I see. Here's the thing. I know these things. I know all these things.
Yeah.
Ian. These things have been told to me many times. I've told other people these things many times. I'm a bad influence on myself, I guess.
I mean, I prescribe this, but I don't take this pill myself. That's partially why I started up that Patreon, was to break myself of the habit. Just do it.
Yeah.
Put it out there.
Do it. Yeah. It's tough, but at first you just gotta write, I guess. Just write. I don't know. Write something. While you go do that, we're going to answer this question here from Wild48. Eggman repurposes Pseudo Sonic and forces Metal Sonic to work with him. Would Metal have a grudge over having to team up with a talkative partner like Pseudo? Or maybe even from having an earlier model of the robotic Sonics be so goofy? Perhaps even an antagonistic one-sided rivalry with Pseudo is possible, as they're both made to match Sonic's skills, and Metal doesn't want to be surpassed by any other Sonic-themed badnik.
I think Metal Sonic is at his best in these scenarios when he's passive-aggressive.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, in every other scenario, he's super aggressive. I mean, he's going to go after Sonic with everything he's got every single time. But when put into such a position, I think it's way funnier when he can't act, you know? Yeah. Eggman says, I'm sending you out with Pseudo Sonic. Play nice. And Metal's just like trembling with the urge to tear this thing apart.
Mm-hmm.
But he can't because he's under orders to play nice. And then, maybe he doesn't reach out a hand when Pseudo goes flying off a cliff. Maybe he watches as Pseudo sinks into that mat of molten metal. He never said anything about saving him, just not fighting him.
That's right.
And then go on to, go after Sonic. Very single-minded in his pursuit. But
the thing is,
funnier still if...
Oh, go ahead.
It's funnier still if Pseudo is like heckling him the entire time and then gets into various forms of dismemberment, because you can do that to robots.
Well, I mean, the thing about Pseudo Sonic is he wouldn't last half a second with modern Sonic anyway. So,
well, yeah, that's true. We're gonna assume that we've got a Pseudo updated for modern sensibilities.
Okay. Well, I guess I'll give you that one. Here's one from Windstar Osprey. What was the relationship between Abyss the Squid and Shellbreaker Otter before the former became an egg boss? Were they friends, co-captains, lovers? Did they split due to ideological differences? Did Abyss just let her lust for money and power go to her head? We're never going to see them again, so feel free to blab your head off.
See, my knee-jerk reaction was to say Lost Hedgehog Tales, but I couldn't remember exactly, so I asked Aaliyah, and she's like, no, we already explained all that. It's in the story. It's like, we did?
Oh.
So she helped me look it up. And yeah, she was a younger member of the greater pirate fleet that Shellbreaker was part of. This is all told in flashbacks and shown. And then she took most of the crew and most of the ships and allied herself with Eggman for the power and became the egg boss / captain of the pirate crew, leaving Shellbreaker and the others in their very small ship with their very small crew. So yeah, it was 100% power grab and her betraying the group that she grew up with.
How rude.
But what do you expect? She's a pirate.
Good point. You got me there. Yoshi Milkman has a question. When you say Mephiles is dead, does that mean that the events of 06 happened, including the ending? Dead and non-existent are very different things. I know there's a theory that Time Eater is the remnants of Mephiles. That can't be possible, though, if he doesn't even exist.
See, I wanted to get into the definition of dead and non-existent, but in terms of Sonic, you're right. I mean, Tikal's dead, but she's still there. So...
She was dead in Sonic Adventure in the outside of flashbacks, so...
Yeah. So, okay. me there. You got me there.
Yeah. So I mean, as far as we know, she's always been dead. So that's nothing new for her.
In terms of did Sonic 06 happen? Yes, but the whole thing is they went back in time and stopped it from happening. So the events beyond like this freaking time travel.
If something happened and you went back in time to before it happened, does that mean it happened?
The scene of Sonic and Elise snuffing out Proto Solaris and resetting the timeline is the ending of the game. So that happened. Elise was never infused with Iblis. Nephilus was never split out of Solaris. I'm assuming the Duke of Soliana is still alive. Shadow and Silver never went back in time to do with any of that mess. Elise was never kidnapped by Eggman because she was never tied to the fabled Flames of Destruction. Sonic never really met Elise. He just ran through that festival. That's the current timeline of events. I have put forward the theory that Time Eater is some kind of remnant of Solaris because I feel like the visual language is there. A dark purple time-destroying entity feels like Nephilus. In the final fight against the Time Eater, you have a giant blazing sun, which feels like that meteor that Iblis hurls at Silver in his final boss fight. Everything about it to me feels like it's hallmarks of it. But does it make sense? No! Absolutely not. But then again, most of the time travel aspects of Sonic don't make sense. So, I mean, by all rights, in Sonic Generations, Crisis City shouldn't be there because the city never got burned down because Iblis was never released. So...
Sonic, what have you done? You've changed the future. You've created a time paradox.
I mean, the best I can think is that like there is kind of a divergent future where Silver's future happened, but he's still tied to the present because it's still technically his past. Because otherwise, why even come back? I hate it. I hate it so much.
It's canon, Ian.
We need to get Knuckles off that rock. We need to get Blaze out of her planet, and we need to pull Silver from the future. Just put them all together in Sonic's clubhouse and let them be friends. Because, oh god,
it's your kids, Sonic. Something's got to be done about your kids. You've created another time paradox. You can't go changing the future like that.
Silver, I'm never going to be able to get up to speed on these roads. Where we're going, we don't need roads.
Oh man. Jeez. Time travel. Yes. It's a thing. Everything is canon, Ian. Did Sonic 06 happen? Yes. Did it also not happen? Yes. Nothing happened, and everything happened. I don't know, man. There's no reconciling this, pretty much.
Now I want to see Silver wearing Doc Brown's future glasses and a flux capacitor, because we've got Silver time-traveling devices. He is a DeLorean at this point.
He is Silver. He's literally he literally has the stainless steel construction necessary for the flux dispersal. I mean,
imagine his spine just kind of raised and you hear the DeLorean door sound.
Yeah. It doesn't make that cool of a sound in real life, by the way. It also doesn't sound...
If you store one, you need to make it do that.
It doesn't sound nearly as cool in real life either. All the engine noises and the... and the reactor and everything. It doesn't make any of those noises, sadly. In fact, it sounds very pedestrian and boring in real life, which is sad. Unless you modify it with a Corvette engine, then it sounds pretty badass, but that takes a lot of effort.
You're putting a Corvette engine into a DeLorean.
Well, it finally has the performance that you hope it does. It finally does what you hope it would do if you do that. There's a rumor. I don't think it's ever been officially confirmed, but they were swapping out the engines in the movies with Porsche engines, which I don't know if that's true. I don't know if you can do that, but it would be so much better. But I don't know. Over here in America, we put our American engines in it. Thank you very much. And we got a question from the cartoonist. Have either of you watched I Think You Should Leave? Or does that show set off your anxiety, fight, or flight so hard that you can't watch it? I wonder if you guys think that sketch comedy is a better format these days because of short attention spans. Gosh darn kids.
I have not seen it, but I have nothing opposed to sketch comedy. It's not something I seek out either. It's, if it's good, it's funny. If it's not, that's the thing with sketch comedy. It's kind of hit or miss.
Fun fact. Never even heard of it until this question. So, I also never watched Tim and Eric, so I got nothing. Here's a question from Zoom. We don't know anything about the multiverse except for Archie pre and post Super Genesis Wave, Prime, and it has also been introduced in the movies as a concept. Do you think every different canon, I mean things like Game World, Fleet Blade World, and X World, should be counted as if they're in different multiverses? Archie had its own separated multiverse, and it's pretty complicated with canonicity of X and Underground shows to their comics. But what do you think about them all being in one big multiverse? Also, I want to ask, is Dimension in, for example, Blaze's Dimension, used to simplify things by saying, here's an alternate Sonic, as she was portrayed in Rush? Because, well, Dimension is not a universe. Sounds like overthinking, but I'm just curious.
Number one, don't think of dimension as the actual proper word, like your 3/4 dimensional space. Dimension here is the misunderstood sci-fi shorthand for alternate reality.
Yeah.
That's a different cosmos. It is another universe.
I think that's
Blaze is not.
I think that's what they mean. I think they know that.
Yes.
It's just, yeah.
Like, Blaze is not alternate Sonic. We've covered that before. So really, we've kind of got a smidgen of a multiverse going on right now because we have Sonic's world, which is the baseline, and Blaze's world, which is the first multiple universe within this very concise multiverse. Beyond that, it depends on just how hard and fast you want to treat your multiverse. Like, you have the Archie interpretation of it, which tried to incorporate everything else, but then they had their own official versions. So then you argue, is this the Archie incarnation of the Sonic X universe? And it just depends on how pedantic you want to be about it. I personally like to think of the various incarnations over the years as their own Sonic universes. And they don't necessarily have to overlap or cross over or even acknowledge each other. They're there. And in terms of officially, I don't think there is any.
Sonic, you're not thinking fourth dimensionally. JJ Slider is here with a question. In Sonic Adventure 2 Canon's core, there are switches that stop time, but the characters move normally in that space. Along with white space being a timeless realm, can characters move in places without time? What's up with the time travel on this episode?
My interpretation of the Canon's core switches were remnants of chaos control experimentation by Gerald. And, Shadow freezes time with chaos control and moves around freely. So whoever activates those buttons is making brief chaos control ? I don't know. It's a gameplay mechanic. And white space, I mean, my understanding is that it's like the void. There shouldn't be air. There shouldn't be physics. Like, it shouldn't be. You'd be tumbling through a void with zero understanding of what is up or down, and your own molecular structure is breaking down because there's nothing binding it to work under the current laws of physics as we understand them. So ultimately, it's a video game about talking cartoon animals. Just roll with it.
At some point, You just kind of have to smile and nod and say, yep, okay.
And see, like 15 years ago, if somebody had said that to me, I'd be insulted. This is Sonic, damn it. I take this seriously. And if you can't pay this at least a little bit of respect, why even bother? 15 years later, I've learned to love and embrace the fact that, you know what? It can be a cartoon.
You've joined.
Not everything has to be real.
You've joined me on the dark side, Ian. Welcome. Finally. Also, now you've confirmed that you hate Sonic.
Yeah, here we go.
Because you don't want to put that much thought into it anymore. You've given up.
Yeah, because as this show has proven, I don't put a lot of thought into this stuff.
No, of course not. You do not put any thought into Sonic, and you don't think anybody else should either. That's right.
So is this your tactic now, to spoon feed them the bad takes and take credit for it?
I'm not spoon feeding them the bad takes. I'm merely just giving voice to the bad takes that are already out there.
I don't know, man. That's an awful silver platter you got there.
Uh-huh.
And once it reaches 88 miles per hour, you're going to see some serious shit.
Well, the joke is I'm taking their criticisms to the extreme, so I don't know. Maybe it'll work. It probably won't. We got a question from Mr. Krabs. Here's a fun concept for you guys. What if Sonic, Tails, and Whisper were stuck on an island full of dinosaurs? How would they survive / escape the island?
I think Sonic and Tangle's immediate reaction would be, want to escape?
There's no Tangle. It's just Sonic, Tails, and Whisper.
I read that wrong. Daggone. Okay.
Yep, there's no Tangle.
I think Sonic's immediate reaction is going to be, you want to escape? It's an island full of dinosaurs. That's awesome. Tails would be more impressed that these ancient things are still alive.
Yeah.
And Whisper would just want to survive. Like, she's the one who's, getting clean water and making shelter and scouting ahead. And meanwhile, Sonic is doing sick grind tricks down the back of a Brachiosaurus.
Whisper's too busy being the clever girl.
I mean, Tails would eventually figure out how to make a radio out of like coconuts and signal for help, but most of it would be various predatory dinosaurs crashing after Sonic and him laughing his head off as he escaped them.
I'm ready. Sounds great. And we got a question here from Gab. Were Orbot and Cubot always there off screen, or did Eggman build them, quote unquote, recently being 10 years ago in real life?
I believe it's meant to be that they're more recent constructions. And if you really want to get into the weeds, you could say that SA-55 in Unleashed is the prototype build of Orbot, and that Orbot's in his present incarnation is the final version, and Cubot is just the companion piece.
Yeah. I don't know, man. It's kind of weird. They just kind of showed up. I'm okay with it, though. They've been good additions. So,
I mean, every character's first introduction is just kind of showing up. Metal Sonic just showed up.
Oh, yeah, that's a good point. Sonic just kind of showed up.
Yeah.
It was 1991, and all of a sudden, boom, Cartoon Hedgehog. And we only knew he was a hedgehog because the marketing told us so. Nobody would have ever guessed that Sonic was a hedgehog just looking at him. And we got one more question before the last question. This one is from Hero of Light 13. Expanding on the Archie Bell scenario, this was from the live stream episode. What if she came from Mobius and was made by the kindly Dr. Kintobor? And what if a certain green menace decided he's finally had enough of the good doctor?
I don't see why Jet would really have an issue with Dr. Kintobor.
No, the other
sorry.
The other certain green menace. Surge, of course.
Right. No, because that's Archie's stuff. And I wouldn't call Vector a menace. Come on now.
Oh, no, don't
He's an upstanding member of society.
Don't be so mean.
Or tries to be. He's reasonably. He pays his taxes eventually.
When they come knocking for him, yeah. After he gets After he gets a Sabina.
Let's see. I mean, sure, Bell built by Kintobor would make enough sense.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that fits. It's weird to me to think of the anti-counterparts taking the initiative to do anything original, because their whole shtick is them being kind of reactionary and inverse of the main stuff. But, I mean, that would make the most sense out of anything, because you can't really reconcile Archie Eggman making Bell in any connotation. And to that end, one of the things I kind of wanted to move towards, and this is, I guess, a little bit of Lost Hedgehog Tales, but after Scourge's takeover of Anti-Mobius, I wanted Buns and the Omega Unit to be a kind of precursor to what Dr. Kintobor would do, which is weaponize for defense. Like all non-lethal weaponry, all detainment devices, and zero attempt to proliferate, but he was going to protect his doorstep and anyone who sought shelter with him. Mm-hmm. He would have learned that he can't just be on the back foot the whole time, because people are counting on him to protect them and to heal them. He would never go so far as to build like an anti-metal Sonic, or excuse me, so I guess that would be a Metal Scourge, but we already had a Metal Scourge. Oh Lord. He would never be, proactive. Like, he wouldn't try to take out the suppression squad in the name of the greater good. That's a bridge too far for him. But he and his hospital, and I guess it would have been probably something akin to the old SAT-AM base, would have been, a bastion, a refuge for the people who were trying to escape that kind of villainy.
Well, I think with that, we've arrived at our last question. From Shemmy. If Mobians are usually covered in fur, does that make them more susceptible to getting fleas? Do they have to go to the store and begrudgingly buy a Frontline Plus and hope nobody recognizes them? Or would the Sonic world have developed a medicine to prevent fleas entirely, like a booster shot?
Well, I mean, it would be really bad given like Charmy's a full, foot tall? Can you imagine a foot tall flea just kind of gnawing on your ankle? Oh, it'd be hideous.
No.
But, they're sentient, so you can negotiate with them. Like, look, dude, get off my knee. Get off my leg. Stop biting me.
No. Would the flea be a drummer? No, the flea was a bassist. Chat.
I got what you're saying.
Feeding me bad info. No, they would be a bassist. Pretty sure. Flea was a bassist, right? Yeah.
Not entirely related, but it just reminds me of this clip I saw of this parasitic mite for bees, and the size ratio was absolutely horrifying. It would basically be like if you got a tick the size of a CD on you. Like, just
some of those things are just disgustingly huge and gross.
And the thing is, like, it doesn't like sit on the outside; it's inside the exoskeleton.
Oof.
So the other bee had to like yank it out from under that kind of, I don't want to say armor, but outer layer. It's just, nature's scary, man.
That's why I don't go outside.
Yeah, but where you live, the scorpions come to you.
Oh, that's fine. Not the big ones. Just the little ones that don't know how to control their venom and keep shoving it in until you're dead. Anyway, that's it. That's all we got.
Oh, on that positive note, well, no, here is a positive note. All the people who support the show over at patreon.com/BumbleKast, Ko-fi.com/BumbleKast, and our YouTube members. Big thank you to Daniel H., Alex P., James K., John B., Jennifer R., Robotnik Holmes, Samuel P., Sam Cybercat, Mike B., Dave M., Coupling Crew 128, Duas Diz Din, Jay Frost, Salute Your Cat, Andrew D., Hero of Light 13, Scruffy Matt, Ryan D., Chris A., Sony, John M., Noni, Jib, Don B., Yami M., Lee H.K., Lisa M., Fiona M., Chevelle, Invade Turbo Tunas, Ben W., Blue Tidal Gamer, Keeper of Monsters, Tick Tick, Axis, Xanderoni the Painter, Final Neil, Scurvy Pirate Hog, Jonathan Inkpants is missing his actual pants. The name is X. Justin S. Solaris Stain, Nimric, Godzilla, Dabbler the Dalek, Chaos Universe, Sonic Legacy, Daniel B., Ava Arctic, Pedantic Cat, Dove, Red the Supernamic, Arcfighter, Quaggle Gaggle, Chad, Nondle, Professor Rye, Jack the Animator, Cameron H., Les, Jennifer H., Sapphire Scarletta, Alphamon Oriukin, Joshua S., Omegawatt, Preston M., Noah S., Finest Cacophony, Alex GS, Kojiro Highwind, Supersonic Van, Awesome Cakester, Radry, Jolene B., Chase L., Dapper Shinks, Just a Mountain Soul, Callum Q., Red Wolf, Ty H., Starsec and Tails, Maddie H., KJB, John the Real Luigi, Derucival, In Zephyr, Mox, The Marble Gardener, Owen BD, Lemur Chicken, Cosmic Cooking Hunter 77, Wild 48, Miles the Prower, Navari, Exidel, Agent Kaz, T Ranger, For Sonic Fan, Lewis J, Michael P, Rhythm Raccoon, Fenris Asger, Pap, Delta God 77, Maggie Sawdust, Pig Dan 20, Ty Cyan, Jamal S, Ozjam, Shimmy M, Angela V, Lacey M, Unlikely Veronica, Phi, Timon B, Thievius, Smiley 21, The Flower Garden, Sammy S, Spiral Sinshi, Tetsu Knife, Fang the Werehog, Krubo, Chaosonic 1, Sky the Desu, Supernova, Indabend, The Disgaean, Superior Pizza, Charlie B, Chaos Shadow, Sonic PAJ, Alex Art Here, Blue Rat, Darth Grader, Green Hill Zone 99, Hedge Sonic 11, Hedgie, Mobius, Nokonori, Scourge Time, Speedweed, Steph Cube, Zek Cartoonist, Frost the White Lion, Danny the Light, Ryoko Shion, Zoom, Phelps G, Metamode, and Wheels 282 Hedgehog.
Absolutely amazing. Incredible. Beautiful. All of you. Please, thank you. Thank you. Thank you to you all. Please and thank you.
Greatly appreciate it.
Yes.
That's going to wrap us up for today. We will see you Friday for the standard Q&A. Until then, be good to yourselves, be good to each other, and we will see you next time on the BumbleKast.
See you later.
All right, it is after 8 o'clock at night over here.
Yep.
I think that's enough for now.
Yes, it is. And, I mean, if he well and truly does want to come on the show for whatever reason, it would be fun to have him.
Oh, I am certainly not going to turn him down. Are you crazy?
No, I'm not going to tell Eggman no. Why would I tell Eggman no? You don't tell him no. I mean, unless you're Sonic, then I guess you do. But, you know, if Eggman demands to be on your show, you say yes. Cool. You inhaled the food and now you're here.
I mean, that's what I do.
It's what I do too, to be fair.
I mean, that combo picture of my face and Kirby wasn't really an exaggeration by much.
No. It's okay. Sometimes you just gotta eat. Eat fast. No, you do not inject food into your bloodstream. That's bad. That's real bad. That's real bad.
That's nutrients.
No.
Hospitable.
Ian, no. It doesn't work that way.
Sure it does.
No.
You just shove a burger in a blender, feed that into the IV bag.
No. You don't do.
It goes ba 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 ba.
No, don't do that. Don't do that. Getting air in your bloodstream is bad enough. Don't put food in there. Take the burger, put it in your stomach. That's where it goes. You've been listening to the BumbleKast, a co-production of Bumble King Comics and the KNGI Network. Original theme music composed by Ken Coda Snyder. Remixed intro by T-Lopes. Find out more information, along with podcast feeder links, MP3 downloads, and more at bumbleking.com and kngi.org.
Sorry, I gotta run. I'll be right back.
Oh no. Where's he running? Oh no. Oh no. He had abandoned me. He must have had to really go to the bathroom. Hey guys. I'm so alone. How am I dealing with this sudden abandonment? Not well. As you can probably hear. What are my thoughts about pineapple on pizza? Well, my thoughts about pineapple in general are no. So, see, I think the thing is that it's not that people don't like pineapple on pizza necessarily. It's that just people just don't like pineapple. That's probably what it really boils down to. Like, if you just don't like pineapple in general, then you don't like it on pizza, obviously, by default. Scruffy, do you like pineapple on pizza? You do? Okay, see? So, I mean, there we go. I have one data point. Now I can say with concise evidence that I am correct. That's how science works. The fruit that tries to eat you back. No, I don't want that. I don't want that. Do not want. Oh, Ian's unmuted. Are you there? Did you have a bathroom emergency? Or another emergency?
Dinner did not enjoy me as much as I enjoyed dinner.
Okay. Oh, okay. It happens. And on that unfortunate note, it's time to end.